Palestine, the Gaza Strip experienced one of the deadliest Israeli attacks since the start of the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas on October 10th. In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro denounces a campaign promoted by the far right which seeks to destroy the image of the country. In Honduras, plans to undermine democracy continue to be revealed as the country prepares for elections. Amidst a climate where signs of attempts to sabotage the elections continue to proliferate. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Sophie Fernandez from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Palestine, the Gaza Strip experienced one of the deadliest Israeli attacks since the start of the ceasefire between the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas and Israel. Gaza Civil Defense announces the death of 27 people due to intense Israeli bombing, raising alarm about the fragility of the ceasefire in Palestinian territory. According to the emergency agency, the attacks were concentrated in Gaza City with 14 dead and in the vicinity of Khan Yunis with 13 dead. This resumption of bombing has deepened the despair among the inhabitants, while the number of Palestinian victims since the beginning of the conflict exceeds 69,513 people, according to the territory's Ministry of Health. Meanwhile, Israeli occupation forces once again attacked residential areas of the Palestinian city of Gaza, leaving more than 20 people killed. Israel launches airstrikes against a building housing displaced people in the Zaytun neighborhood of the Gaza Strip, as well as against refugee tents in the Mawasi area west of the city of Khan Yunis. According to the Ministry of Health of the Palestinian enclave, these attacks left at least 77 people injured. It should be noted that this wave of aggression is part of a repeated offensive by Israel against the Arab nation, with the aim of illegally appropriating the territory and in flagrant violation of the ceasefire agreed between the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas and Israel. Also, Israel continued its attacks against southern Lebanon in flagrant violation of the ceasefire agreements. Israeli Zionist forces carried out attacks on residential areas in the village of Suhur. Authorities have reported no victims so far. However, civil defense teams are on site in case of any emergency. According to local media, students from Suhur, Serifa, and surrounding areas of the Tira district were evacuated after warnings of possible Israeli attacks in the area. Since the ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel came into effect on November 27, 2024, the Zionist army has bombed the neighboring country almost daily. For his part, Lebanon's President Joseph Aoun defended the National Army's resolve to continue its mission in the face of influences from suspicious campaigns, inciting speeches, or attempts to plant doubts from abroad. The Lebanese head of state also highlighted the organization of security forces together with the military in the pursuit of offenders and in reducing crime in all aspects, including border protection. He also expressed his condolences for the falling combat of the soldiers during the pursuit of drug traffickers in Baalbek and wished a speedy recovery for the injured. In other news, the alert for extreme malnutrition in Sudan continues amid the ongoing armed conflict. According to the experts, the nutritional crisis in the country is driven by factors such as food shortages, disease insecurity, and lack of means of subsistence, while displacement also plays a significant role in the crisis. Health authorities reported that more than 70% of the population is acutely malnourished and 35% is severely malnourished. The serious food emergency is the result of the clashes between the armed forces of Sudan and the rapid support forces. In Argentina, the forest fire in Chubut continues to burn, keeping a large operation mobilized in weather conditions that complicate the progress of fire control. Firefighters fight to contain fires that have already burned over 70 hectares in Epuyén and El Bolsón, while strong winds hit Chubut and Rio Negro. In the face of this, the severe drought that the country is experiencing urgently demands greater prevention at the national level. Approximately 140 to 150 firefighters are working on containment efforts, in addition to support staff, for a total of nearly 200 workers mobilized in the area. The development of the fire continues to be determined by climatic and topographical factors, under constant monitoring and coordinated work between ground and air teams. Moving to Bolivia, heavy rainfall caused severe damage, affecting thousands of families in several departments of the country. In recent weeks, the climate crisis emergency has intensified, severely impacted the regions of La Paz, Cochabamba, and Santa Cruz. Also, the affected localities have requested support in the face of the devastation caused by the collapse of houses, the loss of crops, and the closure of roads, which is hindering relief efforts and the provision of humanitarian assistance. In this regard, the tropical region of Cochabamba is in a difficult situation, with nearly 4,000 homes affected by overflows, flooding, and heavy rainfall. And now we have a short break coming up. But first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro denounced that the far right is promoting an international campaign to render the Venezuelan people invisible. The president denounced the existence of a campaign promoted by the sectors of the right that seeks to distort the reality of the country from abroad, especially in northern regions. The head of state assured that despite the attempts to protect an image of weakness, Venezuela continues to consolidate its own democratic and liberal path based on popular sovereignty. In this sense, Maduro highlighted the strengthening of the union between the people, armed forces, expanding national militia, and the police forces, based on popular sovereignty to consolidate peace and democracy through the national territory. President Maduro also emphasized that building a democracy requires time, education, and constant empowerment of the people.
Building a democracy like this takes time, because you have to awaken the people, and it has taken time to awaken them decades, sometimes centuries. You have to educate the people, give them values, consciousness, and you have to do it by empowering them step by step, so that the people, awaken, educated, empowered, and conscious, can have their own destiny in their hands, and don't depend on anyone else. Let's not expect anything from anyone but ourselves.
Furthermore, President Maduro called for an end to the genocide and war in the world caused by the United States empire.
There were 40,000 indigenous people of the Caracas tribes in the Caracas Valley, in the small part that you got to know, because now it is Greater Caracas. 40,000. And 80 years later, after a census was conducted, there were 1,800 of them left. What can you call that? That's a genocide. That's extermination. That's the truth. Let's learn from history, the good things and the bad things, and let's tell the empires of the 21st century, no to war, no to genocide, no to killing. Peoples have the right to live, to exist, and to grow as they wish.
The fascist criminal tries to hide this reality from the world of North. Empowered people, millions of leaders in their communities and on their streets, building and uniting at the grassroots level, the armed forces ready and prepared to continue winning. The perfect union of the empowered people, the armed forces, the powerful militia in expansion, and the country's police forces, increasingly better equipped and deployed, try to hide the reality that this people has a democratic path and in freedom.
Moving now to Colombia, during his most recent presidential address, President Gustavo Petro provided details regarding military operations carried out in 3 departments of the country. Regarding the attack against Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, FARC, dissidents, Petro mentioned that the army managed to recover 3 combatants, but also confirmed the deaths of at least 20 people, including minors. Regarding the deaths of the minors, the president acknowledged that while the state has a responsibility to prevent guerrilla groups and paramilitary groups from recruiting minors, the army's actions are intended to safeguard lives. The head of state also reported on the seizure of more than 200 firearms, including approximately 20,476 pieces of ammunition for these weapons. Costa Rica will hold the 506th Jazz Fest 2025, aiming to bring this musical genre to new audiences and to strengthen the country's music scene. The event will feature a variety of concerts, workshops, and master classes from November 20th to 22nd at 5 cultural venues in the capital, such as the National Theatre, the Fidel Gamboa Amphitheatre at CENAC, La Libertad Park, the Calderón Guardia Museum, and the Costa Rican Art Museum. The festival will present international artists such as Puerto Rican flautist Nestor Torres and the American saxophonist Dave Pietro will participate, and represent Costa Rican musicians will be Ale Gonzalez Trio and the Costa Rica Beat Band. Also, Tianfu Festival, Latin America's largest Chinese light festival, arrived in Buenos Aires, Argentina for the first time, offering a unique cultural experience that blends ancient tradition and contemporary art. Lanterns of all colors and sizes have colored the nightscape, sharing the millennial culture of its traditions, art and technology. During the festival, Tianfu offered visitors an experience full of acrobatics, traditional dancing and performing arts, with an exhibition that includes varied gastronomic offering. It is an unprecedented event in the country that brings Chinese culture closer to Argentine audiences, promoting cultural dialogue between the 2 nations. We have a second short break coming up. Before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, but we'll be right back with more from the South. Don't go away. Welcome back. In Honduras, plans to undermine democracy continue to be revealed as the country prepares for elections. After the release of audio recordings of the National Electoral Council advisor Cosette Lopez proved genuine by international forensic analysis, plans to interfere with upcoming elections continue to unveil. At the same time, the opposition continues to undermine democracy after the Liberal Party's presidential candidate, Salvador Nasrallah, announced a trip to the United States to attend a meeting that will address the alleged electoral crisis in the Central American country. The Honduran administration also rejects accusations of lack of press freedom, assuring that no media outlet is censored despite constant criticism. Also in Honduras, the presidential candidate for the Liberty and Refundation Party, Libre, Rixi Moncada, presented her government proposals in the city of San Pedro Sula, ahead of the general elections on November 30th. Candidate Jarice Moncada emphasized that the her government plan is based on the Constitution of the Republic and the economic principles of democratic socialism, social justice, and the strengthening of the state to continue serving the Honduran people. Her proposals include universal access to health care and education, as well as the expansion of social security to all workers. In this regard, she added that a social housing program will be created to support Honduran families, and the program to assist returned migrants will continue. On November 30th, more than 6.5 million Hondurans are called to elect a new president, 298 mayors, and 128 members of the National Congress.
It is a job.
This plan is based on economic justice, security and defense, mega public investment, reform of the justice system, foreign policy, the environment and strategic sectors, social justice, and the right to the truth of all peoples. That is where our plan is founded.
El derecho a la verdad de todos los pueblos. Ahí está cimentado nuestro plan.
With a solid constitutional base, powerful, which we will defend forever, as we have done over the last 16 years, under the foundation of the principle of popular sovereignty.
Del principio de soberanía popular.
Meanwhile, the candidate for the Libre Party, Jarice Moncada, assured that on November 30th, the Honduran people will democratically confirm another victory for popular sovereignty.
He recorrido el país completo.
I have traveled throughout the entire country, all 18 departments, and we are now close to concluding this electoral process. 10 days from Sunday, November 30th.
Del domingo 30 de noviembre. Compañeros y compañeras en todo el territorio nacional.
Comrades throughout the nation, victory is ours. Victory belongs to the people in resistance. Be assured that once again, the people in resistance, with truth and reason, has defeated the dictatorship.
Que nuevamente el pueblo en resistencia, con la verdad y con la razón, ha derrotado la dictadura.
Let us go peacefully, let us go democratically to the ballot box on November 30th, to confirm one more triumph of the people, one more triumph of popular sovereignty.
Del pueblo, un triunfo más de la soberanía popular.
Meanwhile, in Argentina, justice imposes new restrictions on former President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner and limits the number of visitors she can receive. The court ruled that the former president, who is under house arrest, may not receive more than 2 visits per week, which may not last over 2 hours and are limited to 3 people at a time. It also established the possibility of removing house arrest in any circumstance that jeopardizes compliance with the established rules, which may be revised immediately. It should be noted that the decision was made by the judge of Federal Oral Court 2, Jorge Gorini. The measure comes after the former president received 9 economies simultaneously last Monday. Moving on to the Dominican Republic, political and social organizations demanded that the government refrain from any kind of diplomatic or economic aggression regarding the United States military deployment in the Caribbean waters against Venezuela. The organizations emphasized the need for the Dominican executive to return to constitutional order and to base its policies on the principle of non-interference in the internal affairs of other nations. They also rejected the decree allowing Dominican troops to join a military attack on Venezuela, calling it unconstitutional. In this measure, they demanded the country reaffirms its constitutional course and called for peace, demanding the withdrawal of all U.S. military forces from the Caribbean. In other news, in the United States, President Donald Trump approved the initiative to release federal records related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. In his message pointed on Truth Social, the Republican pointed out that the Justice Department has already handed over nearly 50,000 pages of documents to Congress. According to Trump, the bill was passed by both houses of Congress with broad support, after he himself urged political houses leaders to push it forward. The president emphasized that the Epstein was indicted by the Justice Department during his previous administration in 2019 and highlighted his political ties, including to several Democratic figures. He also criticized the Biden administration, which he said had not released any documents related to the case. Also in the United States, a recent poll reveals that President Donald Trump's approval rating has hit its lowest point in his second term. The report reveals that Trump's approval rating fell to 38% due to citizens' discontent with the cost of living and the disclosure of Jeffrey Epstein files linking him to the case. The poll comes at a time when the United States presidential leadership of the Republican Party is also showing signs of weakening. For its part, the House of Representatives recently approved a measure for the disclosure of Justice Department files relating to the case of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media. We're on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Sophie Fernandez. Thank you for watching.